All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Today we have a great podcast for you. I'm Dr. Amory Wild, and I'm here with Dr. Faith Nelson. And we are actually going to be discussing a book that we read. It's called The Sugar Blues by William Duffy, and it is a fabulous read. If you haven't read it, definitely go pick up a copy. It's a fabulous read. But we are not going to be discussing the entire book. Just a little section of it, because there's actually a lot in there that you'll need to digest and break down and go through. But today we're going to talk about diet causes and diet cures. And what does that kind of go into with us?
Well, what we eat is our diet. You know, you don't have to eat specific things or not specific things to be on a diet, which I think most people think about. But really, what we eat is going to manifest itself in either health or not health. And then what we put into our body is can cure it as well. And I think you'll really see that in this area that we're going to talk about. It kind of started talking about the mill that was created early in the 17th century, and it would grind down grains, oats, rice, wheat, things like that. And that's kind of really where this part of the story begins. Sometimes I think we think new inventions are fabulous because they're new and they got to be better, but not always are they what they appear to be. So, and you'll kind of hear that through as we go through the story today. So it was interesting that as soon as we started grinding whole grain into a meal, it says that our natural energy, the grain's natural energy or its life force, whether one calls it nutrients, vitamins, or enzymes, it doesn't really matter, it was actually reduced. It became nothing. Eating life brings life. So when you eat dead food, what do you get?
Yeah.
Death, essentially,
yeah.
Right? Sickness, disease, things like that. And I really like that because I think it's so true. And so many people today eat very little life, you know?
Very real, not real food. Like eating life brings life. Like if you eat fruits and vegetables, and it's not just fruits and vegetables, it is your grains. Like if you're taking that grain and you're grinding it yourself,
bleaching it,
you know, like then that's fine. But if you're buying it in a flour form, it's dead. It's been bleached. It's been enriched because they've taken so much out of it they can't even sell it as flour.
Right. Yeah. So one thing you should know about grain is that really it needs to be chewed. Actually, all of your food needs to be chewed because the majority of your digestion happens in your mouth. So it's why even if you're eating like a protein smoothie for breakfast, lunch, whatever, you really should try to chew it. I know that sounds weird, but that action actually releases enzymes called amylase, and which actually helps the digestion process. So if you're drinking your food and you're not chewing it, then those enzymes can't be activated. And so the digestive system is really sluggish because the majority of the digestion happens in your mouth. And that's kind of what happened when they started to grind grain, is that people really stopped having to chew it. If you really think about it, your cereal is soggy enough you can just swallow it whole, right? And a lot of the food is the same way. You don't really have to chew it. You can just almost swallow it, which is kind of disgusting if you think about it.
Well, it's not even just like the enzymes and the life that's being stripped away from it. It's the nutrients, it's the minerals are also being stripped away from it.
Yeah.
And so it's just being stripped of all this nutrients. So really you're just eating a white carbon filler.
Exactly, yeah. Essentially you're eating sugar is what you're eating. But yeah, pretty much. So when the mill came out, it was kind of like the new fad. And everybody started eating this ground food. They thought it was easier, they didn't have to grind it themselves, it was healthier because again, it's the new fad, new fantastic, you know, new
Only
thing.
the wealthy could afford it.
Yep, exactly. Only the wealthy could afford it. And really what started happening was there was a disease that started coming up called beriberi. And I actually even had to go look this up. I'd never heard of it before. And it's actually a vitamin B deficiency is really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't know what it was from. And people were getting really sick from it. And Japan was really smart. Japan, they started getting sick, but there was enough older people to realize that maybe it was the food making them sick. So they went back to eating the way they were before and went back to health. And so Japan actually did not fall into the trap, at least at that time. So that was actually really impressive for them. But any of this new food, it gets put on battleships and
the armies, the rich people are eating it.
Yep, and beriberi starts to break out on the battleships, and different things like that. As you go through different studies that they were doing, they were giving it to prisoners and to orphans, but some of the workers in the prison and the orphans weren't getting it, and it was because they would eat the same thing as they did, and then they would go home and eat other food as well.
They'd have meats and they'd have
dairy, things like that. Yeah.
Had other B vitamins in it to supplement the loss.
And so on the battleships and things, they didn't want to feel like they were feeding their men cheap food.
They didn't want to eat like poor people.
Exactly. So they started adding in some meat at that time, which is high in vitamin B. And so they got better, which was great, you know. And then there was this man, his name was Dr. Christian, I'm not sure how you say his last name. I'll have to spell it for you. EIJKMAM. I'm sure someone will tell me how to spell or say that correctly, but I'm not sure. So, so anyway, he was a scientist, and he was over there trying to figure out what was causing beriberi at the time, and he had some chickens. And at the time, they fed the chickens the cheap brown rice. And anyway, there was actually a shortage of this cheap brown rice. And so they started feeding the chicken the more expensive rice that had been ran through the mill. And the chickens started getting sick and displaying the same symptoms as the people did. And he couldn't figure out what was going on. You know, today I think people might think that it was jumping from, you know, human to chicken to animal. But anyway, the rice shortage gets over and they start feeding the chickens the cheap brown unpolished rice, and the chickens get better. And anyway, so he's like, it has to be in the food. It has to be the rice. Well, anyway, people thought he was crazy. They sent him home. Didn't really listen to him, didn't really want much to do with him.
He wrote a paper on it, and people were, that's when they're like, he has lost his mind, he's been overseas way too long, he's losing it.
Exactly.
Because they were sure it was a parasite.
Yep, they thought it was a parasite. And so anyway, so then in 1911, this is where the story gets even better. There's this polar chemist called Dr. Casimir Funk. And he had read the study, so he took unpolished rice and he separated rice bran, and he actually gave beriberi to pigeons and actually paralyzed them. He must have given them a lot. And so anyway, if anyone's pigeon lovers out there, it's not my story, I'm just reading it from a book. And anyway, so he separates this out, and then he gives them the casings, essentially the polishings from the rice, and within like hours these pigeons get up and they're fine again. Crazy, isn't it? Huh?
It was crazy.
Yep. And so he actually came up with the word vitamin. So vita means life, and amin means amino acids, which essentially is vital for life. And so he did make that connection, which was really good. Vitamin B is vital for life.
Yeah.
So anyway, do you want to tell the next part, or you want me to keep going?
Yeah, you can keep going.
Okay. All right. Then there was the next doctor, and there's lots. Like I said, they started experimenting on prisoners
and orphans.
I know. And they really had a hard time narrowing it down because like we said, the workers weren't actually getting beriberi. And
but all of the kids and the prisoners were.
And so, but eventually they figured out that it was they were going home and were eating probably the cheap food because it's what they could afford, you know. And so anyway, so there's all this time stuff is going on, but anyway, Dr. Robert R. Williams, he actually starts experimenting with chemistry, and he came with how to extract vitamin B from plants, from the plant, okay? And he is so excited, loves it so much. This is back in, 1920 something, a long time ago. He sells 1 gram of it for $400. Can you imagine?
Well, and the crazy thing is that he found that it was the vitamin B that was helping people not get beriberi. And so rather than just giving them the whole plant, because there's plenty of B vitamins in the unpolished rice, he extracted just the B vitamin out of the polishings and made it into a vitamin, and then sold it for $400 a gram. And now, for reference, unrefined rice was sold for 10 cents a pound at the time. So $400 a gram is a lot.
It is.
It's a lot now, but then it was even more than what it is today.
Yeah. He essentially found that he could sell the people rice, make them sick because it strips nutrients and important enzymes out from your food. It causes your body to go into an imbalance because your body needs that B vitamin, and it's going to take it from wherever in your body it can, right? And it will make you sick by doing that. And then he's going to sell you the cure for $400. Nice of him.
And a lot of people are like, oh, but what about the poor people? The poor people weren't getting sick because all they could afford was the unpolished rice. It was the wealthy, which is why they could sell it for $400 a gram, which is also what started the supplement greediness, and it has not stopped. Supplement companies, pharmaceuticals are charging astronomical amounts and have been since they began.
Oh yeah.
For things, for nutrients you can get from food that you should be getting.
You should be getting from food because it's going to actually be better for you if you get it from food than stripped away in a lab. When I tell you, like a lot of our pharmaceuticals and even a lot of the B vitamins on the market, they're from chemicals. They're not from plants, you know.
They went from extracting it from rice bran to now making a chemical that looks the same under the microscope, but your body doesn't recognize it the same way.
No.
And that is one problem with the pharmaceuticals. And then the other problem is, even if they are extracting it from plant sources, they're extracting it. So they're only taking the B vitamin.
Yeah, they're not taking everything else that needs to break it down. In your body.
And that's the thing with whole foods is that, you know, when you eat a beet, like, you need every part of that beet
to break it down.
But if you just take the B vitamins out of it, then all of that fiber and everything else you need to break down those B vitamins, it's going to be stripped from another area in your body.
Oh yeah.
So you're actually making the deficiency worse by getting poor supplements because of that.
Exactly. Isn't that crazy? And it's why I know Fiducia is one of our sponsors, but it's why I do love Fiducia, because they use plants and food and
whole food. It's not extracted from anything. This is the entire plant that now you're getting the vitamins from.
Yep, I know they use beets in their B vitamin is one of them. And they literally take a beet and chop it up and put it in there to extract it. And I think that's important. You know, people don't realize that if they're getting their tinctures or whatever, they're with chemicals, they're going to take chemicals. Their body isn't going to know what to do with them. And actually, it can end up making them sicker in the long run.
In order to break it down, it has to leach the other nutrients that it's lacking.
Yeah.
That's why, like, when you go and you get like a vitamin D or a vitamin C, so many people are like, oh, those really aren't that good for you. Well, yeah, a lot of them actually aren't, because in order to break down that vitamin C, because it's been extracted, now you're missing all of the other nutrients you need to break down that vitamin C.
Yeah. Well, but there is great supplements, like Fiducia has one that has just really good things that are high in vitamin C. You know,
they use the whole
they're plants and berries, and they use the whole plant, and it is one of the reasons why we do highly recommend them. So,
and it's the same with like their iron and their multivitamins, and everyone's like, oh, but you just need the iron or you just need the zinc. And it's like, no, you need all of it.
Yeah.
In order to break down the iron, you need the zinc. And in order to break down the zinc, you need the copper. Right? Like, you need all of it. And that's the amazing part about whole foods, is that they come with everything you need to break it down.
Yeah.
Once you refine it and you change it, then it doesn't really have those nutrients to break it down. And so, yeah, a lot of supplements can make you sick because of that.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of people that are like, oh, you need to take vitamin D and calcium together. Well, you could just eat a whole food, because it will have the vitamin D and the calcium it needs to break each other down, and the magnesium, and
Yeah.
you know, it's a whole thing. You need the vitamin D, and then you need the calcium to break it down, and you need the
And one
magnesium
thing
to
I
break
love is
down.
that whole foods really aren't that expensive. Like,
They
you know,
aren't, no.
if you looked at an apple, yeah, you're going to pay probably $1 for the apple, but you're paying $1 for the Snickers bar too. And some supplements, I think you have to be careful of. Somebody was asking us today about a supplement, and it wasn't one I was familiar with, so I went and looked it up. And essentially it was water and magnesium, and they are charging a lot of money. And I'm like, wow, you could just do some mineral salt for like $10, you know? And crazy enough as it is, it works just as good, if not better. And so I think it's really important to be aware of what you're taking, where it's coming from, and really if it makes sense to you or not. I think today we're pushed so much, and the lights are so bright, and it sounds good like the mill is, and part of the mill I'm sure is good.
It did, you know, it
But
had its great purpose.
Yeah, I guess I don't really want to grind. Well, I don't really eat weed, but you know, I mean, if you do, there you go. But anyway, but it didn't really help the people. You know, it maybe made their lives easier, but it made them sicker. You know, and I think that's so sad. That had they just stuck with what they were doing, health would have lasted with them, you know? And a lot of people get sick because of the diets that they're eating, and they don't realize that it's the food they're putting in their bodies or in their children's bodies right now, because that's really another big thing. That if they were to change those, they could actually reverse those diseases. And I think that's really the important thing to remember, is what we put in our mouth is so important. And what we give to our children. You know, it doesn't matter if they only like this or that. Like, you keep offering them those good foods, and eventually they'll get to where they'll eat it, you know? Absolutely. And if you keep giving them the easy, quick foods, then you know what? Yeah, that's where they're gonna go, is the easy, quick foods. High in sugar and everything else, you know?
And it's not real food, and there's no life left. Like, if you look at a fruit snack, like, there's nothing that has been alive for a very long time in that. Like, I'm not sure any part of that actually is fruit. But if it was, it was a very long process.
It was a long time ago it was fruit.
And if you're giving them the fruit snacks over the fruit, then they're never gonna like strawberries, because the texture, every strawberry tastes a little different. Some are more sour, some are more sweet. The texture on all of them is different. But the fruit snack, it'll taste the same every single time you eat it.
Oh, well, and kids, I think, start to think that that's what strawberries, their brain says, this is what strawberry tastes like. So then when they go and eat an actual strawberry, they're like, this doesn't taste right to me. I don't like this. And it's because their brain, you have taught them that this is what strawberry tastes like, not what an actual strawberry tastes like. And that's actually a big deal with a lot of kids. So,
and I just think it's really important to understand, like, supplements too, because I think so many people are trying to be healthy. They're trying to get the supplements, And you know, this influencer says, oh, you need magnesium and you only need magnesium, and this one over here is saying you just need more iron, and this one, and there's so many loud voices, but really what you need is just a whole food diet. You just need to go back to living and getting nutrients that are from the earth. You don't need extracted magnesium from this or that. You just need the whole plant. You need,
need a little mineral salt.
You need some minerals, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that with our soil, it is hard to get all the nutrients we need.
You can't get all the nutrients.
Yeah, and so I do feel like supplements are important, but you really need to be careful of the quality of the supplements, and what you can get from food, and what you can't, then get from a supplement. And to just be healthy. Yeah. So anyway,
if you guys have any questions, let us know, and stay tuned for our next video.
All right. See you later.